Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil's life, is a constant reminder that the universe has zero chills. I mean, the guy is blind, constantly broke, gets punched in the face for a living, and still has a stubborn refusal to stay down. And thus, he has racked up one of the most brutal enemies as the Devil of Hell's Kitchen in Marvel Comics. If Spider-Man or the Avengers villains have fun with their crime sprees, Daredevil's enemies make it personal. They sure aren't one to play. These aren't just bad guys robbing banks or taking over the world. These are sadistic crime lords, assassins, and complete maniacs who want to break Matt Murdock body, mind, and soul. Some exploit his moral code, some go after his friends, and some just want to see him suffer. And the worst part, they usually succeed before Daredevil drags himself back up, barely holding his ribs together, ready for round 2. So, in this video, let's get into the absolute worst of the worst who've made Daredevil's life an absolute nightmare. Because there's one thing Matt Murdock can count on, it's that his enemies never fight fair. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means an awful lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Kingpin. Wilson Fisk, better known as Kingpin, isn't just a mob boss. He's the mob boss of Marvel Comics. No one, not even Daredevil, commands as much fear in Hell's Kitchen as he does. He made his first appearance back in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 50 in 1967 and was created by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. While Kingpin has battled many heroes, his hatred for Daredevil is personal, obsessive, and downright terrifying. Fisk operates under a simple philosophy: power is everything. As the Kingpin of crime, he has spent years building an empire based on control, fear, and manipulation. Most superheroes just punch criminals and leave, but Daredevil is one of the few people always standing in his way, constantly chipping away at Fisk's empire from the inside, crippling his operations, exposing his corruption, and making him look weak. Which obviously does not sit well with Kingpin. The more Matt Murdock disrupts his business, the worse things get for him. Kingpin doesn't just fight Daredevil, he dismantles his life. He's had Matt disbarred, blown up his apartment, and dragged him through absolute hell, all while keeping his own hands relatively clean. He's committed more crimes than most villains in Marvel, yet somehow he always keeps himself out of a prison cell. Because, well, he doesn't need to throw every punch himself, you see. He's got people for that. Nuke, Elektra, Bullseye. Fisk unleashes them like attack dogs, using them to break Daredevil in ways few villains could. What makes their rivalry so vicious is that Daredevil, unlike other heroes, never gives up. No matter how many times Fisk crushes him, financially, physically, or emotionally, Matt Murdock keeps coming back. Fisk sees him as an infestation that won't die, a cockroach scurrying through the filth he controls. The worst part for Fisk, Daredevil is a nobody. He's not a billionaire like Tony Stark or a god like Thor. He's just a blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen who refuses to break. This angers Fisk because it challenges everything he believes about power. Fisk doesn't have superpowers, no fancy mutant gene, no radioactive bite, just pure strength and a ridiculously strong body. That expensive pristine white suit sure hides pure muscle. One hit from him can send a man flying. Plus, it helps that he knows how to throw a punch or two, but Fisk's real weapon is his mind. Kingpin plays the long game and uses corruption, political influence, and sheer ruthlessness to rule New York City. And no, he's not giving up his throne anytime soon. Bullseye. Kingpin, Elektra, and the Hand all make Daredevil's life nothing short of a nightmare, but none of them can really match Bullseye. Think of him as Daredevil's Lex Luthor, Joker, and Green Goblin all together. Basically, there's no one deadlier than Bullseye in the Marvel Universe. Making his debut in Daredevil issue 131 in 1975, Bullseye's battles with Daredevil are an all-out bloodbath. Unlike Kingpin, who seeks to control Daredevil, Bullseye simply wants to kill him in the most humiliating way possible. Bullseye believes he is untouchable, the best marksman, the deadliest assassin, a man who never misses. With Daredevil, he dodges Bullseye's attacks, humiliating him in ways no one else has. And Bullseye cannot stand being beaten by a blind man. Over time, that frustration has turned into a violent personal vendetta. He doesn't just want to defeat Daredevil, he wants to ruin him, make him suffer, and take away everything he loves. And unlike Kingpin, who plays the long game, Bullseye enjoys inflicting inflicting pain immediately, cruelly, and creatively. Like Wolverine, Bullseye has adamantium reinforcement in his bones, which means they don't crack no matter how brutal the fight gets. Daredevil once shattered his spine, but Bullseye still came back stronger, crazier, and deadlier than ever. However, his real claim to fame is his acrobatic and marksman skills. He is capable of throwing a knife and every other sharp object with unmatched precision, no matter the distance or how difficult it is. This makes him the Hawkeye of villains, but with zero morality and a love for killing. He is skilled in every possible weapon in combat known to man. He is capable of turning anything from a pencil or a playing card to a toothpick into a weapon. If it's in his hands, it's a bullet with your name on it. Whether up close or from across the room, he's deadly, and if you're on his list, there's a 99.9% chance you won't see another sunrise. Well, that's Bullseye for you. Often dressed in a black bodysuit with a white bullseye symbol on his forehead, his cold dead eyes and twisted grin make it clear he's a man who lives to kill. Bullseye's fight with Daredevil isn't limited to him. He pushes Daredevil and has taken away more from Matt Murdock than almost anyone. His loves, his allies, even his sanity. He brutally murders Elektra, Daredevil's greatest love, just to prove he's better. He even lets Daredevil watch as she crawls to him, bleeding out, and dies in his arms. Now, if that isn't vicious, then I don't know what is. Years later, he murders Karen Page, another one of Daredevil's lovers, with a single gunshot just to break him emotionally. Poor Daredevil can't seem to catch a break. Kingpin has been defeated, imprisoned, and even worked with Matt in rare moments, but Bullseye, he'll never stop hunting Daredevil. The Hand. Ninjas are cool. Undead ninjas, even cooler. But the Hand isn't just another gang of hired thugs. It's a centuries-old death cult rooted in ninja warfare and dark magic. It is an army of master assassins, all trained in elite combat, deadly weaponry, and resurrection. But what really makes them terrifying is their absolute loyalty to an ancient demonic god known as the Beast that grants them supernatural abilities. While his true form is not known, the Beast is often depicted as a shadowy demonic figure with glowing red eyes. Daredevil has fought powerful crime lords and assassins, but the Hand is something far worse. Fighting with swords and stealth is all fine, but when they tap into the dark mysticism, sometimes even summoning magical dragons to do their bidding, that's a whole other level of dangerous. At the heart of it all is the Beast, which feeds on blood, chaos, and destruction, and it has an obsession with turning Daredevil into its champion. Created by Frank Miller in 1981 and debuting in Daredevil issue 174, the Hand, originally founded in Japan, started as a secret society of nationalists, samurai, and ninjas, but they evolved into something far more evil, infiltrating and corrupting everything they touch. And since then, they have been a constant thorn in Daredevil's side. But the Hand and its master, the Beast, don't just want to kill Daredevil, they want to make him one of them. You see, Daredevil is the perfect vessel for the Beast, a warrior trained in martial arts, a man who thrives in darkness, someone who has a history of embracing rage and vengeance. That's totally the Hand material. While the Hand has turned many warriors into mindless killers, Daredevil refuses to give in. Daredevil has taken down the Hand's leaders, crippled their operations, and even led them at one point attempting to reform them, which of course backfired. Over the years, the Hand has worked alongside many powerful warriors, leading its ranks. Some of them are Lord Shingen, a ruthless samurai and crime lord who nearly killed Wolverine, the Gorgon, a mutant ninja with the power to turn people into stone with a glance and is nearly unkillable, and Elektra, who was once resurrected by the Hand. But their real strength is that they never run out of bodies to throw at their enemies. Even when they fall in battle, the Hand can resurrect their dead warriors, making every fight an endless fight. Also, let's not forget the Hand is led by a full-blown demonic entity with supernatural abilities. The Beast is far stronger than any mortal, capable of tearing apart warriors with ease. He is nearly indestructible and can survive attacks that would kill gods. He feeds on rage, pushing warriors into madness and bloodlust. He has his own sweet way of corrupting people, forcing them to do his bidding. They have played a major role in both the Daredevil and Iron Fist Netflix series, bringing their centuries-old war to life. Their greatest enemy has always been the Chaste, an order of warriors led by Stick, who trained Daredevil to fight against them. But the Hand isn't just a problem for Daredevil. They've clashed with Wolverine, Iron Fist, and nearly every street-level hero in Marvel. No matter how many times they are defeated, they always come back. So, if there's one thing to know about the Hand, it's this: you can't kill what simply won't stay dead. Ikari. Some villains hate Daredevil for personal reasons. Others see him as an obstacle to their power. But Ikari, he was created specifically to hunt and kill Daredevil. A deadly martial artist with Daredevil's heightened senses but none of his morality. Ikari is a horror in the flesh, a warrior trained to mimic and surpass Matt Murdock's abilities, ensuring Daredevil has nowhere to run. Trained across multiple fighting disciplines, his skills are so sharp that even Bullseye, the ultimate marksman and killer, personally hired him to take Daredevil down in Daredevil issue 25. That alone speaks volumes about how lethal he is. Ikari was engineered by Daredevil's enemies to erase him from existence. Bullseye, tired of Daredevil surviving every attempt to kill him, commissioned a new kind of assassin. A mirror image of Daredevil, but stronger, faster, and cold-hearted. He has the same abilities, but no limitations. He's everything Daredevil is and more. Ikari has Daredevil's enhanced senses, but unlike Matt, he isn't blind, which makes Ikari all the more terrifying. He can track Daredevil by heartbeat alone, meaning there's no hiding from him. He is trained in multiple forms of martial arts, including the brutal techniques of the hand. He moves faster than Daredevil and prefers kamas, short curved blades, as his choice of weapon. Ikari is a cold-blooded killer. Unlike Daredevil, who holds back, Ikari fights to kill every single time. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't show mercy, and doesn't play by any rules. Dressed in a Japanese variation of Daredevil's original costume, he wears a red and black samurai-inspired suit. His helmet resembles Daredevil's and his body is covered in battle scars, a proof of years of brutal training and assassination missions. Daredevil may have faced countless enemies, but Ikari is the one who truly terrifies him because he is Daredevil without a conscience, the restraint, or the limits. Typhoid Mary, a deadly assassin, a pyrokinetic powerhouse, a former lover, and a woman with fractured identities. Typhoid Mary is one of Daredevil's most complex and dangerous enemies. With a past deeply entangled with Matt Murdock's, she doesn't just fight him, she haunts him. Created by Ann Nesenti and John Romita Sr., Typhoid Mary made her debut in Daredevil issue 254 in 1988. Adding chaos to Matt Murdock's already complicated life, Mary's origin is tied directly to Murdock before he even became Daredevil. Years ago, when Matt was still young and reckless, he got into a fight with criminals inside a brothel. In the chaos, he knocked a woman out of a window. That woman later developed dissociative identity disorder, DID, leading to the birth of Typhoid Mary. So, you see, Matt Murdock unknowingly created her. While Mary is a quiet and pacifistic, Typhoid is seductive and violent, and Bloody Mary is a full-blown, hyper-violent, and merciless villain. She remembers what Matt did, and even though he never meant to hurt her, she sees him as the reason for her condition. Seeing her potential, Kingpin trained her as an assassin and sent her to infiltrate Matt's life. She seduced him as Mary, making him fall in love with her while secretly tearing his life apart as Typhoid. With her shifting personality, Daredevil can never prepare for what's coming next. She has half of her face painted white, symbolizing her split personality, and her costume is usually a red and black outfit. But it is her mutant abilities that set her apart from most of Daredevil's enemies. She has a limited telekinesis and can move objects with her mind. She has low-level telepathic abilities allowing her to influence people's minds, manipulate emotions, and control their minds. She also has the power to control fire and can set things ablaze with just a thought. She can create fireballs, burn enemies, and even resist flames herself. On top of her powers, she is also a martial arts expert. Trained by none other than Kingpin, she is skilled in hand-to-hand combat and weapons. And that is why Daredevil struggles every time they clash. She forces Daredevil to question himself. He blames himself for her condition, making every fight a personal battle with his guilt. While villains like Kingpin and Bullseye challenge Daredevil in strength and skill, Typhoid Mary is the one who truly gets inside his head. The Punisher. Unlike Daredevil's usual enemies, mob bosses, assassins, and demonic entities, Frank Castle, aka The Punisher, is not a villain in the traditional sense. He isn't trying to take over the city, break Matt Murdock emotionally, or control the criminal underworld. Instead, he is Daredevil's ideological opposite, a relentless executioner who sees Daredevil as an obstacle to true justice. Frank Castle, better known as The Punisher, isn't a superhero, he's a one-man army. First appearing in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 129, in 1973, the Punisher has been at odds with Daredevil for years because of one fundamental difference. The Punisher doesn't believe in second chances. Both want to rid the world of crime, but their methods couldn't be more different. In Punisher's mind, the justice system is broken. Letting criminals live just means they'll come back, while Daredevil, as a lawyer, believes in redemption and the law. Daredevil, a man who believes in justice over vengeance, tries to stop Punisher from killing, often putting himself between Frank and his targets. In Punisher's eyes, this makes Matt part of the problem. Frank thinks Daredevil's refusal to kill is a weakness, a belief that allows criminals to keep hurting innocent people, and so he constantly tries to teach Daredevil the truth about the world, often in brutal ways. Dressed in a black tactical outfit with a white skull emblem, Punisher has no superpowers, but a former Marine, Castle has the strength and endurance of a soldier in peak condition. He has survived gunshot wounds, stabbings, and even being thrown off buildings. Guns, knives, explosives, Punisher uses anything and everything to kill. He may not have Daredevil's agility, but he hits harder and fights dirtier. A master in military close-quarters combat, he has fought and held his own against Daredevil, Captain America, and even Wolverine. He ambushes traps and outsmarts enemies, making him almost impossible to track or stop. Unlike other villains, Punisher doesn't fear death. He welcomes it. He will never stop, never surrender, and never compromise. In recent years, Frank Castle became even more dangerous by joining with a Hand, which gave him supernatural upgrades. Now he has superhuman strength, stamina, a healing ability, and the Eye of the Beast, which allows him to see someone's past and future sins. As if he wasn't deadly enough, he's now harder to kill and more merciless than ever. Punisher is one of the few villains Daredevil can bring himself to hate. Their battles aren't about personal revenge, but justice, morality, and the line between hero and monster. Kingpin fights for power, Bullseye fights for fun, but the Punisher fights because it's all he has left. You can't break a man who's already broken. Mysterio, better known as Quentin Beck, is typically seen as a Spider-Man villain using Hollywood-level special effects, advanced technology, and psychological warfare to commit elaborate crimes. He was a longtime Spider-Man enemy, had fought and lost so many times that he became a joke in the criminal underworld. Originally a Hollywood stuntman and special effects genius, he dreamed of making it big as an actor. When that didn't pan out, he figured out he could put his skills to better use by becoming a supervillain. But in one of the most shocking and tragic Daredevil storylines, Guardian Devil, Mysterio pulled off one of his cruelest manipulations ever, not against Spider-Man, but against Matt Murdock. Mysterio originally had no vendetta against Daredevil. After being diagnosed with a terminal illness, Beck decided to orchestrate one final masterpiece, one last grand illusion, before he died. Spider-Man wasn't available, so Mysterio chose Daredevil as his final victim. He researched Matt Murdock's life, realized how deeply he relied on his faith, his morality, and his sense of responsibility, and set out to corrupt all of it. What followed was one of the most devastating mental attacks Daredevil has ever endured. Mysterio tricked Matt into thinking a baby was the Antichrist, manipulating his Catholic guilt. He drugged Daredevil's girlfriend, Karen Page, causing her to relapse into her past addiction. He then convinced her that she had HIV, a lie that shattered her emotionally. If that wasn't enough, he planned her murder at the hands of Bullseye, ensuring that Matt lost the love of his life. Mysterio then framed Matt for murder, turned his friends against him, and drove him to the edge of insanity. Mysterio's goal was to push Daredevil so far that he would kill him. But unlike Spider-Man, who had always laughed at Mysterio's tricks, Daredevil didn't have that luxury. This was supposed to be his grand finale. He wanted Daredevil to be the one to kill him, believing it would be the perfect ending to his story. But Matt refused. Instead, Daredevil dismissed him as an unoriginal, weak villain. With his plans in ruin and his final act denied, Beck took his own life, consumed by the realization that his grand masterpiece had been nothing more than a complete failure. Known as the Master Illusion, Mysterio may not have superpowers, but that never stopped him from being a total torture. Mysterio creates hallucinations so real that even Daredevil's heightened senses can't detect them. He messes with Daredevil's mind, causing paranoia, self-doubt, and emotional breakdowns. He is an expert chemist and hypnotist. Mysterio uses hallucinogenic gas, mind-altering drugs, and hypnosis to manipulate his victims. Mysterio's drones and animatronics create illusions that can physically interact with the world. His armor is resistant to attacks, making him more than just a trickster. He also wears a fishbowl-shaped helmet that projects illusions and protects him from mind-altering effects. His green and purple costume is equipped with hidden weapons, smoke emitters, gas dispensers, and whatnot. Mysterio may have started out as a special effects fraud looking to make a name for himself, but in Guardian Devil, he proved to be one of Daredevil's most insidious threats. He proved that Daredevil is just as vulnerable as any other hero. Unlike other villains who want to control, defeat, or kill Daredevil, Mysterio wanted to ruin him completely, and for a while, he succeeded. Mr. Fear, Lawrence Cranston, a criminal mastermind with a fear-inducing toxin that overrides Daredevil's heightened senses. Mr. Fear isn't just a gimmick villain and has been haunting Daredevil since the early days, first appearing in Daredevil issue 6 in 1965. Over the years, multiple people have taken up the identity of Mr. Fear, but the most dangerous of them all is Lawrence Cranston, a former law school classmate of Matt Murdock. Originally introduced in Daredevil issue 89 in 1972, Cranston just found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. He witnessed the second Mr. Fear's death and decided to take up the mantle for himself. At first, he was nothing special. His early run ended in embarrassment when he leaped off the building, assuming he was wearing a jetpack, which he wasn't. But Cranston wasn't done. He came back stronger, more ruthless, and far more effective than his predecessors. He launched the campaign to discredit Daredevil, working his way into New York's criminal underworld and teaming up with a villainous Hood to climb the ranks. Cranston wore a dark purple and black suit and a skeletal mask with hollow, soulless eyes. But he wasn't just another costume crook. While he has no superhuman abilities, his signature weapon is a fear-inducing gas that causes extreme paranoia, hallucinations, and uncontrollable terror in his victims. Unlike DC's Scarecrow toxin, Mr. Fear's gas doesn't wear off quickly. Sometimes it can leave permanent psychological scars. The gas is delivered through pellets, meaning Mr. Fear can strike from a distance, making him even more dangerous. He doesn't have to get his hands dirty to ruin someone's life. What better way to challenge the man without fear than by forcing him to face fear himself? Death's Hand, Paxton Page. Among Daredevil's many foes, Paxton Page, better known as Death's Hand, stands out as one of the most personal and tragic. Unlike other villains who seek power, revenge, or chaos, Paxton Page's descent into madness wasn't just about himself, it was about his daughter, Karen Page. Karen believed her father to be dead for years, but he had faked his death and isolated himself to continue his dangerous experiments. Paxton Page was a brilliant chemist, specializing in rare and dangerous forms of radiation. However, his obsession with cobalt radiation turned him into something entirely else. Exposure to his own chemicals warped his mind, turning him into Death's Hand, a radioactive flame-wielding madman. When Karen left her home life to be with Matt Murdock, Paxton saw it as his daughter abandoning him. He blamed Daredevil for taking her away, even though his own actions were what drove Karen to leave. He believed Daredevil corrupted her and wanted to save her from Daredevil. However, Karen returned home seeking solace after believing Matt Murdock was dead. But Daredevil wasn't far behind, needing to explain why he had faked his own death. That reunion quickly turned into chaos when Death's Head saw Daredevil as an intruder. The two clashed in Paxton's lab, a battle made even more dangerous by the volatile cobalt experiments surrounding him. In the end, when a vat of molten cobalt was about to spill onto Karen, Paxton, despite his madness, snapped back to protect his daughter, shoving her to safety and perishing in the process. Paxton's body was burnt and scarred from constant radiation exposure. He wore a skeletal, death-like mask, and his suit was designed to contain his radioactive energy. But Paxton Page wasn't just another mad scientist in a suit, he had become a radioactive monster. Due to years of exposure to his own experiments, Death's Head emitted deadly radiation, making him hazardous to be near. His body became a walking furnace, capable of melting objects and incinerating enemies. He could create intense flames using them as weapons against Daredevil, while his fire blasts could destroy buildings. His body became resistant to extreme heat and damage, making it harder for Daredevil to take him down through conventional means. He could even mutate his horse into a monstrous creature that he rode into battle. Armed with a sword and a bola, both charged with his lethal energy, he had savagery few villains could match. Before his transformation, he was one of the world's leading scientists, meaning he understood how to manipulate chemicals, radiation, and technology. At his core, Paxton Page was a man undone by his own genius. He sought isolation, but in the end, his greatest act was one of redemption, saving his daughter from the very destruction he had become. While Daredevil has fought many brutal, intelligent, and manipulative villains, Death's Head was a monster of a different kind. A father's love twisted into pure destruction. Gladiator, Melvin Potter. Fans of the Daredevil Netflix series may remember Melvin Potter as the man who created Daredevil suits, but before he was an ally, he was the Gladiator, one of Daredevil's most physically imposing foes. Unlike villains like Kingpin or Bullseye, Melvin wasn't born evil. He was manipulated, used, and pushed into a life of crime. First appearing in Daredevil issue 18 in 1966, Melvin was a talented costume designer who ran a successful tailor shop. However, he suffered from mental illness and struggled with anger issues and emotional instability. His obsession with power and invincibility led him to create the Gladiator suit, believing it would make him unstoppable. Over time, crime bosses like Kingpin and other manipulative figures exploited his mental instability. They used him as a muscle and convinced him that Daredevil was his enemy. Melvin saw himself as a warrior, and each time Daredevil beat him, it damaged his fragile ego. However, unlike other enemies, Matt Murdock saw Melvin as redeemable. This only made things worse. He wanted respect, not pity. He believed Daredevil humiliated him, making him look weak in front of the world. At first glance, Potter's skill set might sound a little strange. He was a costume designer, but his gladiator suit, it was basically a walking arsenal. He turned his craftsmanship into combat. His gladiator suit, a blue and yellow armored suit, had a large G on his chest. He wore a helmet that closely resembled an ancient Roman gladiator, with these spinning saw blades made of titanium steel mounted on his wrists were his favorite. He could throw them with deadly accuracy or use them for close-range combat, making him someone you should definitely maintain a safe distance from. His gladiator armor enhances his physical abilities while still being lightweight but durable, making him resistant to punches, kicks, and even bullets. It's designed to intimidate his enemies, reinforcing his self-image as a warrior. And I must say, job well done. Nuke. Daredevil has fought many powerful enemies, assassins, crime lords, and twisted masterminds, but Nuke, he's something else entirely. Nuke is what happens when you take a drug-fueled super soldier built for war, throw in some cybernetic enhancements, and completely strip away any remaining sanity. First appearing in Daredevil issue 232 in 1986, Frank Simpson, better known as Nuke, was a test subject for the Weapon Plus program, the same operation that created Captain America. But unlike Steve Rogers, Nuke's conditioning didn't go smoothly. Instead of a noble super soldier, they got a raging, unstable war machine. A former Vietnam veteran, he was captured and tortured by the Viet Cong, which left him permanently scarred, physically and mentally. The experiment that followed turned him into something far more dangerous. While Nuke doesn't personally hate Daredevil, he sees him as an enemy of America, thanks to the manipulations of corrupt military figures. He is programmed to obey, he doesn't question orders. When Daredevil exposes government corruption and fights against systemic violence, Nuke sees him as a traitor. Kingpin and corrupt officials use Nuke as a living weapon to clean up Hell's Kitchen and terrify the population, and Nuke did not disappoint. He nearly burnt the entire neighborhood to the ground. Wearing his patriotism on his sleeves, Nuke has the American flag tattooed across his face. His body is scarred and cybernetically enhanced, making him look more machine than man. Nuke often wears military-style combat gear, carrying enough firepower to blow up a city at the drop of a hat. Unlike most of Daredevil's enemies, Nuke is a full-blown super soldier. Thanks to cybernetic enhancements, Nuke has superhuman strength, stamina, and agility, along with a backup heart, just in case someone manages to take take out the first one. He can throw cars, punch through walls, and even bullets fail to slow him down. His skin is reinforced with a specialized plastic polymer, making him even harder to kill. And then there's the pills. Red pills boost aggression and strength, turning him into a raging monster. The white pills calm him down after a battle, and the blue pills help him recover and stabilize his system. These drugs make his fighting unpredictable. One moment he's a berserker, the next he's eerily calm. For Nuke, Daredevil represents everything Nuke can't understand. Nuke is a man of absolutes, obedience, war, power. On the other hand, Daredevil is a man of morality, nuance, and justice. But deep down, Nuke is just another victim of unchecked patriotism, mixed with experimental warfare, a perfect soldier who was never meant to be let loose. And once he is, there's no reasoning with him, just surviving him. Bushwhacker, a former CIA operative turned mercenary with a cybernetic arm that transforms into a gun. Bushwhacker isn't just another hitman, he's a one-man execution squad who thrives on hunting down targets. And Daredevil just so happens to be one of his favorites. Carl Burbank, aka Bushwhacker, was once a devout Catholic priest who believed in faith and redemption. Eventually, he lost his faith after witnessing the devastating effects of drug-related deaths among young parishioners and joined the CIA. Here, he was subjected to Black Ops experiments that enhanced his body and turned him into a human weapon, a cybernetically enhanced killer known as Bushwhacker. After leaving the agency, he became a freelance assassin working for the highest bidder. But at some point, something inside him snapped and he declared war on mutants. Specifically, he targeted those whose abilities enhanced their talents in the arts, artists, musicians, and creators. He saw them as threats and began hunting them down. This mad killing spree put him in conflict with Wolverine and Daredevil. While Logan was hunting him for his crimes, Bushwhacker's wife, terrified by what her husband had become, turned to Matt Murdock for help, believing he needed to be institutionalized. When Daredevil finally tracked him down, he found Wolverine already locked in battle with the assassin. Wolverine was ready to end Bushwhacker for good, but Daredevil intervened, which gave him the chance to escape and continue his rampage. Eventually, both heroes managed to take him down, leaving the right side of his face permanently scarred before handing him over to the authorities. But Bushwhacker wasn't done. Later, he joined forces with Typhoid Mary and a group of Daredevil's deadliest enemies in a coordinated attack against their common foe. When the dust settled, Mary took Daredevil's unconscious body, and Bushwhacker was left to his own devices, free to continue his violent path. While Daredevil has fought many assassins and killers, Bushwhacker is unique. He is a living weapon with no remorse, no hesitation, and no mercy. If he's paid to kill you, you're good as dead. His cybernetic enhancements make him deadly in a fight, but it's his unhinged mindset that makes him truly terrifying. Marvelous verdict. Daredevil's list of rivals is all over the place. Take your pick of mobsters, assassins, psychos, and the occasional literal demon. From Kingpin playing chess with people's lives, Bullseye treating murder like an art form, to the Hand, who is basically an undead ninja infestation that never gets the memo to stay dead. These villains are tough, no doubt, and are a walking, talking how-to guide on ruining Matt Murdock's life. But here's the thing, Daredevil never stays down. No matter how many bones he breaks or how many times his city turns into a battleground, he gets back up. And that's why they keep coming. They know they're up against a guy who treats pain like an old friend. Fists up, ready for the next round. And let's be honest, at this point, his chiropractor deserves a raise. If you like your content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.